This absolutely mind-blowing story in my state of Virginia. A 19-year-old high school student. That's right. I mean, 19. You apparently can still be in high school, especially if you are illegal. This one is still in a posh Fairfax County public school. And according to Department of Homeland Security, Mr. Flores Ortiz is also an illegal immigrant from El Salvador who entered the country during the Biden regime's open border bonanza. Anyway, the adult illegal immigrant high school student has been charged with groping and sexually assaulting his female teenage classmates. And naturally, the Department of Homeland Security is pleading with Governor Abigail Spanberger, I'm sure to no avail, pro-illegal immigrant state government to not release this illegal immigrant from his holding cell. Apparently, Israel Flores Ortiz is not the only illegal immigrant who has been led into the Fairfax County school system. In fact, releasing adult illegal immigrants with checkered past into our high schools is apparently a federal pastime. Here's Stacy Langton. She's a concerned mother who you know from this show at the high school in question. She recorded her exchange with the principal of the school. Listen.
The issue is the undocumented, unaccompanied minors, quote unquote minors, the ELLs, who are over the age of 18 and up to the age of 22, because those are technically, under the law, they're legal adults. Those are young men. Those are not, ninth grade students. And I want to also know, if I could find out, district-wide as well, like how many over FCPS's district, but especially for me, because it's specific to our school, how many are here in our school, because I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know this was, that they're sort of entitled to this under the law. Like, I just learned this myself as a parent, and I have to say it's alarming.
To be clear, the Fairfax County school system is using a program designed for children and young adults who are mentally handicapped or have other special needs to place otherwise healthy legal immigrants into the same classrooms as our children. We're now joined by Stacy Langton, who has for many years advocated for our kids, their rights, parental rights, specifically in her local Fairfax County school system. That's how she and I met. She's also the founder of mommatgrizzly.org. Stacy, it just never ends, but this is particularly concerning, okay? You have adult illegal men going to school with these minors, and this is not the first problem we've had in the state of Virginia alone with this. Why is it happening, Stacy?
Well, it's happening because of a Supreme Court decision. It's called the Pyler decision, and it was from 1982. That's the genesis of this. And I've just had a crash course in the legalities of all of this over the weekend when the school sent us parents, the email. And the initial email that we got from Fairfax High School was very vague. It didn't say that there were multiple victims. It didn't say that this person who was the perpetrator was an illegal immigrant, and it didn't say that he was a legal adult. So it was really light on information, which is kind of how Fairfax County's communications department rolls. And so I have two daughters in the school, so this affects me directly. So I kind of didn't think much of the email when I first got it, because it seemed like, oh, this is one student and, somebody got arrested, I guess, or whatever. And it's not my child. And then when the story broke through the local ABC affiliate here who reported on it, and I realized there were multiple victims, then I went to my daughters and I said, hey, do you guys know anything about this story? Apparently there's a kid that's been groping girls. And my daughters knew all about it. And they are actually friends with two of the ninth grader victims. There's 12 victims total. And the two girls that they know are ages 13 and 14. And, that's terrible, because not only was this kid he's almost 19. I want to be precise on that. He turns 19 on June 28th. So, technically he is an adult. But he's targeting young girls, and what I didn't know is that, yes, this law under the federal level, it's a federal statute. It allows adult males up to the age of 22 in the Commonwealth of Virginia to attend school. So it's really, in a sense, amazing that disaster didn't strike before this event, because we have adult males roaming the halls with, 13 and 14-year-old little girls. And that's why I'm here, because I'm sounding the alarm on this, and it needs to be rectified at the federal level.
Disaster had struck actually prior to this, Stacy Langton, some years ago, and I'm working on digging up that segment. We had was a heartbreaking story. A mother in Fairfax County whose daughter had been the victim of sex trafficking at the hands of MS-13 that had been brought into the schools, right? MS-13, overage illegals posing as minors. In this case, they were posing as minors, right? This gentleman's actually, or this illegal is actually admitting his 19-year-old age. But they had been put into the schools, and they started a sex trafficking ring, and the daughter was too scared to even tell anyone. And then she finds out her daughter isn't attending class, and then the truth comes out. She joined our show. She was brave enough to share her experience, but it was hard to fathom. And this was, a family that could have been your family. I mean, it could have been any of us. They were the normal suburban American family, and this happened to them. Now, in this case, Stacy, I want to read the school announcement, the public announcement put out. They said they wanted to share the news of the recent arrest of a student who was charged with inappropriately touching other students at the school. These incidents involved the student touching students' buttocks while they were transitioning in the hallways. These incidents were fully investigated by our administration and local law enforcement authorities as soon as we were made aware. Now, the Department of Homeland Security is asking the state, probably to little avail, considering what I've heard our governor, Abigail Spanberger, has planned for us, to not release him. But we can't even guarantee that this Ortiz is not going to be led back into the school, right?
Well, no. He is in jail. I was at the courthouse for a good amount of time on Monday, doing a lot of follow-up on this. Okay, so I met with the principal of Fairfax High School, Dr. Georgina A., on Monday morning. And after I met with her, and obviously you played part of that, so you heard a little bit of what she said. I met with Officer
I noticed she was very careful with what she said. I know she was trying to be very careful.
I want to be fair to the school and to the personnel, okay? Because she actually was very forthcoming with me, considering the circumstance, because she knows I'm a parent of two girls in the school. She knows my daughters. And so she was forthcoming. She could have just said, I can't say anything, and she could have just turned me away, immediately, but she didn't. So let's be fair. And then I met with our head of security, James Burling, and he explained to me in detail the circumstances of the arrest. So there's a few things I want to correct in the initial reporting on this, which is mostly emanating from Fox News. And it's very disappointing because, sometimes in the rush to be first, they're not always right. It's better to be right than to be first. So the main thing that I think needs to be corrected is just to know that the school acted immediately. So Officer Burling explained to me that the first three girls who came forward, the first three victims, they went to a teacher, and that teacher immediately got on a walkie-talkie and called him. He's the head of security. And that is what started the police investigation. We are in the city of Fairfax, so it's City of Fairfax PD, handling it. And they started the investigation. A police report was filed that day. They interviewed the first three victims. And our school, Fairfax High, has very sophisticated camera surveillance systems. And I know this personally because my ninth grader got robbed in the halls at the beginning of the school year during a classroom transition. It's extremely crowded. It's like going to a rock concert and you're shoulder to shoulder with, hundreds of bodies. It's a 2,300 student school. And so with that technology, they can track our students everywhere they travel throughout the course of the day. And so that's what the police did. They tracked those 3 initial victims through the building, and that's how they discovered the perpetrator, Israel Flores Ortiz, okay? And then in the course of the investigation, they found other girls who had been similarly groped by Israel Ortiz. And as a matter of fact, my daughters told me last night that they now have 2 other victims that they know. So they have a total of 4. And these 2 latest girls are seniors. And so it's a process, right? When the investigation begins, the police have to do their work correctly. They can't just, jump the gun. They have to have a good, solid case in order to get an arrest warrant. And that's what they did. They worked as quickly as they possibly could. And they got the arrest warrant within about 3 days of being made aware of the situation. And I wanted to correct something else that Officer Burling said to me, which is that, Fox was reporting that, this had been going on for months and the school did nothing and the school tried to sweep it under the rug. Well, that's not true at all. The moment the school had the first victims come forward, they went to the video footage to track it, to find out who was touching the girls. And the way it works, he said, is they have no footage beyond 30 days back. Okay, so they looked at all the footage as far back as they could, and they did this appropriately. So I don't think it's correct to say, it's going on and they tried to for months and months and months and they ignored it and swept it under the rug. That is absolutely not true. So when the arrest warrant was issued, then again, it takes some time. They have to go serve the guy. They have to find him. They have to locate him, and then they have to make the arrest. So he was arrested on March 7th. He was immediately taken to a hearing on the 9th. And then there was a hearing on Friday, which was the 11th. And the school sent out the notice the very next day. So the school did keep us informed, except the initial contact about it was, far too vague. They should have done a better job in being specific about what's happening here. So he's in jail. He is not getting out of jail. And thank God for that. We have a judge who is a female. Her name is Razan Fayez. And she is the one who ordered him held on no bond until his hearing on April 9th. And I think at that point, then, I think there's a very good possibility he might take a plea deal on this. He's facing 9 misdemeanors against all minor children. Okay. And ICE, you have to understand something. I met with the sheriff as well for 15 minutes while I was at the courthouse. Their office is in the courthouse offices. The sheriff said the Department of ICE and the Commonwealth, the way they interface together, nobody is trying to prevent this guy from being deported. ICE is essentially standing back as a matter of procedure because that's how the system works. This guy has to go to his hearing on April 9th first before ICE was to act on his detainer. Because if they were to do it now, if they were to go and deport him now, the charges against him, those 9 counts would go away and those victims would see no justice whatsoever. If they deport him back to El Salvador, he gets to get a chance at maybe running across the border again and coming back and, harming more girls. So we have to be patient. We have to let the process play out. And on the 9th, depending on how the disposition of that hearing plays out, then ICE can act upon the detainer to deport Israel Ortiz.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. I'm encouraged to hear that actually the school, for the most part, took the right measures. That's good. That's an improvement over some of what we've seen in the past, particularly in Northern Virginia and the area that you're in. So we'll be watching that April 9th hearing and seeing how this evolves after his actual hearing date, Mr. Ortiz. But I think the big takeaway from this,
the big issue
is that we have a Supreme Court decision, the Plyer versus Doe decision of 1982, that is allowing, in the state of, in getting specific to the state of Virginia, these people, adults up to age 22, allowed into school if they're English language learners, age 12 plus, enrolling in Virginia public schools for the first time. That's not okay. All right. That's just not okay.
And it's a recipe for disaster. And so that's why I'm sounding the alarm. And I really would like to, I don't know what it's going to take to somehow, find my way into somebody in President Trump's orbit who will take this seriously, give me 15 minutes to sit down with some staffer who can present this to the president, because this is the president's wheelhouse, right? This is one of his gold star campaign issues. He has always spoken very strongly on how he objects to all of the criminal illegals that have been flooded across the border. And here they are in our schools hurting our kids, and it's legal. And unfortunately, it isn't really FCPS's fault either. They are obligated to take these students, and it's called an entitlement under the law. So they have no power to essentially refuse them. And then it's bizarre to me that they're allowed to be there up to age 22. So the president needs to be made aware. And I don't know what the mechanism is that he needs to take to deal with this matter. Like, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I feel really confident that if President Trump was made aware of this, he would want to rectify it immediately. Because you know what? His granddaughter, Kai Trump, is the same age as my 17-year-old daughter, who, by the grace of God, didn't get grabbed by this scumbag. So how would the president feel about Kai attending school alongside illegal men, adult men, putting their hands on his granddaughter? I bet he wouldn't stand for it. He's a tough guy, and I'm a tough mom. And I say, no, let's fix this. Let's find out what needs to be done, because it shouldn't have been happening in the first place.
It shouldn't have been. Like you said, it's a recipe for disaster, and it should be low-hanging fruit for particularly the Trump DOJ's Civil Rights Division. So hopefully they'll see the story and take action.
One last thing I want to say, because I'm sorry, this isn't political. I want to emphasize that. I have parents at this school who are Democrats, okay? Like, I'm conservative, I'm Republican. They're Democrats. And you know what? Everybody's pissed about this. Who's in favor of adult immigrants coming across the border and going to school with your little girls? Nobody. So this is a midterm election issue. This is going to convert votes, because you know what? Democrats don't want this. Independents don't want this. Republicans don't want this. So let's turn this ship around, and it'll help convert votes for the midterms in November.
Yeah, I'm in a blue area, and there's been some issues in the schools because we are one of those areas where they flooded in the refugee seekers, right? Refugees across the border. And we've already had some issues in our local high schools as well. And the Democrat parents, because there's largely Democrats around me, they're not okay with that either. Stacy Langton, thank you so much for being a mama Grizzly and immediately getting on the situation and making sure that the proper measures were taken. We really appreciate you, and keep us posted on the story. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. I think you will get the attention of probably the Trump administration, just guessing. Thanks, Stacy.
Thanks, Emerald. I won't back down.